Earl Sweatshirt. We know him as a gifted rapper with the ability of lyricism that's able to make you feel like he's pulling you into a dark corner of his own mind. Earl's known for making some of the most introspective, raw music out there, with lyrics that dive deep into his own thoughts and struggles. His ability to paint descriptive pictures that stick with you with just his words while keeping everything real and unfiltered is what makes his music so powerful.
I've been reaping what I sowed. Nigga, I ain't been outside in a minute, I've been living what I wrote.
If what comes to mind when you think of Earl Sweatshirt is his days in Odd Future when his lyrics were disturbing, controversial, and highly inappropriate, then you've been missing out on what Earl Sweatshirt truly has to offer. Because beyond the shock value, his music's evolved into some of the most unsettling, reflective, and profound lyrics in all of hip-hop that often express his traumatic experiences, which is the topic of this video, with the song Solace.
To tell the truth, I miss my partner them. To tell the truth, you can't be loud when you the wrongest, fam. To tell the truth, I'm at a loss of friends.
Now, for anybody who's heard this song before, we know it starts off with a haunting and ambiguous line, "I've been here before." This line is repeated 8 times as the introduction to the song. Although unclear at first, we can assume that here refers to his state of mind, and due to the tone of the voice, we can assume that that state of mind isn't very good. And based off the definition of the title, we can see solace literally means comfort or consultation in a time of distress or sadness. After about 50 seconds of that intro, Earl hits us with this verse.
Late for everything, my face to the cement, that's how I always seen it. I spent days faded and anemic. You can see it in my face, I ain't been eating, I'm just wasting away.
Discussing how he hasn't been eating due to his drug use, and how the effect on him has been so large that you can even see physical changes in himself, and that he willingly chooses drugs over food. Knowing how Earl uses symbolism, a theory I have is that Earl chooses desires over his own life. Being late often and not eating are textbook signs of depression, but what makes this opening verse so unsettling is how open Earl is with admitting it, and that directly after this line, he says that his fate will most likely end up like River Phoenix's, who was a famous actor during the late 80s and early 90s, and unfortunately died to a drug overdose in 1993. Earl makes it clear he knows the gravity of his situation, and that if he doesn't get out of this depressive state, it's imminent that he will overdose. In Solace, Earl is crying out for help because he feels like he's stuck in a cycle where his depressive state just keeps on getting worse, and the only way to ease it is with drugs. But the result of easing his pain with drugs is that it causes him even more pain than before and continues this cycle, but this time he is further away from help. And every time he caves in, the cycle becomes harder to escape. This cycle of wanting to escape but constantly being pulled back in is called cognitive dissonance, which means the discomfort a person feels when their behavior does not align with their values or beliefs, and may worsen a person's depression even further, especially if they have dissonance about their own identity. Now, if you're someone that's never heard of the song Solace, I've bet you heard this iconic piano part. It really comes in out of nowhere, and it's the introduction to the second part of the song. In this second part, Earl explores the idea of just letting go, allowing depression to take over, and never getting better. Earl doesn't want to waste his life away or die of an overdose, but the idea of letting go is so tempting after this long battle that it feels like it's one of his best options. In part 2, Earl says,
My brain split in two, it's raining a bit. I hope it's a monsoon, my face in the sink.
Earl explains that his mind feels like it's split in two, meaning that one side wants to get out of depression and one wants to sink further in. After this, he says that it's raining a bit, I hope it's a monsoon. This is the side of his brain that wants to sink further into depression talking. He's saying that his current state of depression just feels like a light bit of rain, but if he sinks further in, it could be a monsoon of rains. And he hopes he could drown from it like his face was in the sink. He mentions his nibbling conscience, which can represent the way that his battle in his mind is eating away at him and everything he once was, and all the behaviors and values that he once held high. Earl believes that his current depressive state is impossible to get out of, especially on his own, so he would prefer to give up than try and fail. The piano that loops during part 2 is a sample from Ahmed Jamal's April in Paris from 1966. The song name itself is interesting because the month of April in Paris is often filled with sudden showers, and then bright sunshine, and then back to cold temperatures, which shows just how meticulously Earl Sweatshirt chose this song, not only because it's eerie and it fits in the song, but down to its name, and how April in Paris aligns with his lyrics. It's raining a bit, I hope it's a monsoon. But referring to the start of the song, as well as other songs, we know that Earl has gone through depression many times. But this time it's different, as we see in part 2, but Earl finally reveals the cause of his depression in part 3.
I got my grandmama hands. I start to cry when I see them, cause they remind me of seeing it. These the times that I need it the most, cause I feel defeated.
It is here where Earl reveals that the death of his grandmother has been the cause of this depressive state, and it's had such a big effect on him that he's stuck in this cycle that he can't escape. And every time that he looks at his own hands, it reminds him of her, and it just feeds in the cycle of him being more and more defeated when he says that he needs her the most. But of course, that's not possible after she passed away. And now Earl feels like he has no one to go to, and now drugs are truly the only way that Earl has to escape some of the pain. He reveals that his grandmother used to know how to ease his feelings during past depressive states, but despite all the drug use and the loss, he does have his best friend and former Odd Future member, Nikel Smith. Earl says that Nikel is right there on the couch next to him, and that he's also been of support during these depressive states. Earl then goes into a few lines that all start with "to tell the truth," where he openly talks about his problems and his flaws, as well as what he should and shouldn't be doing. And in one of the lines he says,
To tell the truth, you can't be lying when you the wrongest, fam.
although a simple line on first look, if you dive deeper into it, you can see how deep his mental health issues go, by explaining that whenever he identifies some of the problems with his behavior, his self-doubt immediately kicks in, which makes him convince himself that he's a fraud, and that he's exaggerating the situation, which puts a stop to any effort to help himself.
Time waits for no man, and death waits with cold hands. I'm the youngest old man that you know.
This line is Earl recognizing that the world will continue no matter what state of mind he is in, and that simply the world just doesn't care if he's depressed or not. And he mentions that he feels like the youngest old man, meaning that physically he's young, but mentally his experiences have been those of a full life. And then in the last line of the 10-minute song, Earl says,
If your soul intact, let me know.
This line creates a parallel from Earl to whoever is listening, who may be feeling the same way as him. He's elaborating that he wants to know if there's anybody listening that's there for him, the same way that he's there for them. The outro of the song consists of some calm synths and light bass, allowing some time for the listener to process what has just been said, and it's the perfect way to end the song in my opinion. But when we do process what has just been said, we realize that Earl has been recognizing all of his faults, which is the first step in recovering from depression. And he has been making music out of the situation, which is his solace, his comfort and consultation, which tells us that despite everything, his passion of music is truly what saved him, despite all the impossible odds. Although this song is unreleased, I believe it's one of his most impactful and underrated songs in his discography. Earl teaches us in this song that everything will be alright, and let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this song. And if you've never listened to this song, what are your thoughts about it from this video? Also, I just wanted to include at the end that I've been sick during this recording, so my voice sounds a little bit different. But if you guys enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out the videos on the screen right now. And until next time, thanks for watching.